When you grew up, were you a newspaper reader?
Uh, I read newspapers growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I read them now, but not terribly thoroughly. Now I read a whole bunch of news sources, blogs, some stuff online, magazines, newspapers. The most trusted source of news for me personally is The Daily Show. They cover stories that other people don't. They actually back up their stories, and they have fun with them too, which doesn't hurt. There's an Oscar Wilde quote, "If you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh, otherwise they'll kill you." In '94, I was at Charles Schwab. I was evangelizing the internet at Schwab, and I saw a lot of people helping each other out, like on the well or news groups. I figured I should do something, and in early '95, I started a very simple mailing list telling friends about what I thought were cool events, usually media and technology events. It grew from there, word of mouth. People wanted more stuff, and I did that. Made it into a real company in '99, and just keep doing the same, listening to people, acting on suggestions, not all about what makes sense, and then asking for more feedback. We're a conventional company on paper. In practice, we're non-commercial.
Now explain what you mean by that.
We run the site viewing ourselves as something which serves the community, and we don't do any of the things you expect of a commercial operation.
Such as?
Such as worrying about the stock price. We don't try to make every dollar we can. We're almost completely free. We don't take banner ads. I like the idea of alternative forms of ownership. Anything which works is okay with me. The Wall Street model of that kind of ownership hasn't worked terribly well because people lose focus on what really matters, and that's why a lot of media has become viewed as a profit center, not community service.
Looking at the media, what are your thoughts about what you see changing around us, and what the role of the web and things like Craigslist might be?
Well, I'm a dilettante when it comes to media, but right now we have a big problem in our culture, maybe the world, wherein there's been a strong trend for media properties. Well, they used to perceive themselves as community services. Now they perceive themselves in large part as profit centers. As a result, the quality of news coverage has dramatically declined. And this is not much my observation so much as it is from a lot of people in journalism, journalists and editors and publishers. We need to evolve news mechanisms, probably on the web, that are really good at helping people figure out what are the big stories, what are ones that matter, how to keep them alive, not just dropped after a day, and how do we find out the most trusted versions of those stories. Those mechanisms are being built and funded, although for the most part they're in stealth mode. We also need specifically to nurture people who are fact checkers. Factcheck.org does a great job. We need more of the same. I'm hoping the shifts in journalism occur fast enough that, investigative journalism is a more secure kind of job. Right
what
now,
are you thinking about how that might happen?
Well, right now, as newspapers more and more become profit centers, investigative journalists who are very labor intensive, they're getting fired. I'm hoping that process will stop.
And do you think that there's the potential that will stop because newspapers will decide they have to reinvest?
Well, I'm thinking that investigative journalism done smart will help restore trust in newspapers and also will help the entire country. A problem right now is that often people in power will lie to journalists, and the journalists want to call them on it, but their publishers won't let them.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a minute.
Sure.
And if I were to imagine myself the CEO of Knight Ridder or of Gannett right now, I would say to you, publishers don't do that. Publishers don't tell journalists that they can't challenge authority. How would you react to that observation?
Well, I don't understand the processes well enough, but it's a combination of journalists knowing that if they write something which is too challenging, it won't be published. Sometimes they feel they'll get denied access, which they don't have anyway. It's a whole bunch of implicit processes, including consensus as to what's news.
How do you reach the conclusion that there's this corporate pressure on journalists to perform in a certain way?
Well, I could see that there was something happening because, again, the press, particularly the White House press corps, doesn't ask difficult questions, except for Helen Thomas. They don't get answers, and I don't have real conclusions. I only have a few clues, and that's because I've asked journalists, editors, and publishers, and I've done some reading.
Are you perplexed by the inference in a lot of stories that the traditional media is sort of spooked about Craigslist?
I have the impression of a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
The classifieds people aren't happy with us.
Yeah.
The news people, the editors, the writers really like us.
Yep.
But they're frustrated about the whole phenomena of what's happening in newspapers. Recently I spoke to a classifieds analyst who says the big problem is the small niche papers like Penny Saver or Auto Trader. Those are the ones who are taking most of the revenue away. I still think, though, I see a lot of potential revenue for classifieds that no one ever gets. More importantly, the big problem for newspapers is the erosion of trust.
So, where do you think Craigslist might be 10 years from now?
More of the same. We'll, I hope to give over more control of the site to the people who use it. Right now our site is self-policing, it's very democratic. We need to find more and better ways to do that.
You have what must be a personal approach to life, which is that people are good unless proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think the business culture tends to turn that around, and so people are bad unless proved good.
It's just been my observation now, doing Craigslist for 10 years, and by handling hundreds or thousands of of customer service cases, people are okay. There are bad guys out there. There's not many, and so I've become overwhelmingly optimistic. There is a streak of world weariness in me because I do have to handle bad guys and stuff like that, and that's just life. Well, I figure what we're doing is just helping people out, giving people a break. That's pretty satisfying, and somehow indirectly we're changing the world a bit. Sustainable, I think our model is pretty good. We run the site at very, very low cost, and as long as we remain true to our moral compass, I think we're set.